The lockout is upon us. Every single player is just an imageless nobody, like it's John Dowd in that old baseball game. And the Yankees have signed pretty much nobody, and everyone is mad about it. And I was mad about it too, until I sat down for a couple days and I really looked at the Yankees roster, and I'm already fucking this race up. This is astonishing. But I looked at the Yankees roster and I thought about it, and I thought about the long-term implications, and I thought about the fact that the owner doesn't want to go over the cap too often. And you know what? I actually kind of like it. And I think it's probably the smart idea. Now, if they go and, after the lockout's over, and sign Carlos Correa, then I'm going to talk myself into it, or they sign Trevor Story, even though I don't want them to. I'm going to pretend that I like it. But let's go over a couple quick reasons why I think I like this. Number one, in all the other sports, I'm a Bills fan, I'm a Sabres fan, I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm a Knicks fan. And the Bills have been pretty good recently, obviously, but for 2 decades they weren't. And obviously the Knicks are the Knicks, and the Sabres are the Sabres, and Arsenal are kind of a banter team. And we go into a lot of seasons knowing that we don't have a chance. And there's nothing more depressing in sports than going into a season knowing your favorite team just doesn't have a chance to win. Oh, son of a bitch. And part of winning a championship is just getting lucky, right? Like look at the Suns. They didn't win it last year, but they got themselves in the playoffs. They were the 2 seed, and then they faced a bunch of injured teams and they got to the finals. And look at the Braves this year. They were a bad team for the first half of the season. They said, you know what, let's give ourselves a chance. They made a couple trades, and all of a sudden they're in the World Series and they're winning it. And the Yankees, we really haven't had to experience, not having a chance a lot. 2015, 16 maybe would be the closest we felt like that. And the reason for that was what? We were running out contracts of older players who could no longer produce, like A-Rod, like Ellsbury, and those kind of players. And I think a lot of it is jealousy, and we look at teams signing, Marcus Semien, and we look at across the way, them signing Starling Marte, and, I know a lot of people want a Corey Seager, but if you really sit down and say, okay, what would have happened if we signed these players, right? We already have Giancarlo on big money. How the hell did I fuck this up? We already have Giancarlo on big money, right? And a lot of years. We have Garrett Cole with a lot of years. DJ got a lot of years left. Hicks has got a couple years left. Hopefully we sign Judge to an extension. So if we would have signed, Semien to a 7-year deal like he got, think about it. Within 4 or 5 years, probably less than that, probably 3 seasons, we would have a bunch of aging players on contracts. And I think a lot of people remember 2009 and the fact that we spent a lot of money and we won the World Series, and it was great. But after that, it's been kind of a barren wasteland, and there's been a lot of years of just running down contracts and waiting for contracts to end. And I think the Angels are kind of like the red flag of maybe just signing a bunch of expensive contracts isn't the way to go. So I actually think taking the smarter approach and the long-term approach is what you want to do, right? Because at the end of the day, Corey Seager would have been great in a Yankee uniform. But everyone knows that he's probably going to be a third baseman at some point. And, we already have DJ LeMahieu, who is he a second baseman? Can he be? We're playing we're playing Glaber there. And is he a first baseman? We have Luke Voigt. Are we trading for Matt Olson? If he's a third baseman, is Gio gone? Like, there's so many other question marks, and that's the third reason. I think the third big reason is long term. You have to look. You have to take the long term look as a GM. And I don't really like Joey Gallo, and I don't trust Aaron Hicks to stay healthy, and Giancarlo's a DH long term. And so you look forward, especially I don't think they like, Gary, what are we doing at first base? There's probably 4 or 5 positions long term that we might need to sign free agents at. And if we like the 2 shortstop coming up in our system, why spend $300 million on a shortstop when you can look in the future, a year from now, 2 years from now, and say, you know what, we're going to need to spend 10, 15, 20 million on a left fielder, 10, 15, 20 million on a first baseman, 10, 15, 20 million on a catcher, 10, 15, 20 million on a pitcher maybe. We'll see what happens. With Severino and Montgomery and Nestor and Michael King and all those people. We'll see, but I think taking the long-term view is probably the best way to go about this. And I'm not that mad about it right now. And I know the AL East is going to be a bloodbath. I know the Red Sox are going to be good and the Rays are going to be good. And in hindsight, this could look really dumb. But honestly, I think that the Yankees just giving themselves a lottery ticket every year and saying we're just going to be pretty good every year is the smart way to do it. Because at the end of the day, the final thing I'll say is the Yankees were the green monster being a reasonable height away from the divisional round. If that was any other stadium stand, hits 2 home runs, we walk into the divisional round to get our asses and our shit pushed in by the Rays. But we are much closer to being good than we are to being bad. And I'd much rather be good for a long time than great for a couple years and average for a couple years. Because as long as you're pretty good every year, even if you're not the best going into the year, if you give yourself a lottery ticket and you pick a number in the raffle, it could be yours that comes up. The dice could go up 7s if you roll it correctly, and you could be the Braves. And if we spend a lot of money, we could also still not win anything and be the Angels. So the long-term approach to me is probably the right way to go about it. And to the Yankees, you know what? Everyone's going to hate on you, but right now, I'm pretty okay with it.